Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Austin Hargett, aka Dr. Weldz, and I'd like to welcome y'all to my home shop. Really excited about today. I got something really cool to show y'all. As you can see, I like to run Everlast, the mean green machine, here in my home shop. And they've come out with something really cool, and I can't wait to show you. Let's get it. Here it is. It's not actually this box. It's what's in the box. I know that can be confusing. Let's get our proper PPE on. Get this box open. All right. You know, double eye protection when using any type of cutting equipment. All right. That's nice right there. That's shiny. Damn! Look at that. That's pretty neat right there. It's got a nice bulky kind of frame. It kind of looks like, you know, real heavy duty on this plastic guard here. Got a nice little flip deal. Ooh, wait for it. Ah, it's nice. Let's see what came in the box with it. Come with 2 sets of handles. They'll go on there like so. Even a big old handle for the top. So wherever you want to pick it up at, you got it. Here's everything that came in it. Cyclone 212. Got our gas hose. Our little wrench multi-tool with a couple contact tips. Oop, the guy's running away from me. We got our flux core roller. You can tell it's flux core by the little grooves. Little regulator. You got a decently lengthy MIG gun, MIG 15. That's the series of MIG guns. So if you need consumables for it, you make sure that you look on Everlast website for that MIG 15. Of course, it plugs up to our 220 and our 110. Got a lengthy stick stinger, a decent sized ground. We got our gas inlet back here, our fuse in case it blows, our on-off switch here in the back where the fans kind of blow out. I got the handles on, nice and sturdy, lots of room to grab. We pop open the wire feeder, and you see our wire feeders in here. We undo it here, pop that off, pop our spool on. It holds a 4 or 10 pound spool. Of course, we got our wire tensioner down here for all kinds of stuff like stainless steel, carbon steel, flux core, self-shielded flux. And you can see that we've got a flap roller and a grooved roller. This one's not gonna be one that you're gonna change out ever. So the only one that you need to worry about is that bottom one down here. Now this one again is for a hardwire MIG, whereas the one with the grooves on it is gonna be your flux core roller. Then we come around here to the front. We look at this bad boy. It looks pretty slick, guys. Of course, we got our positive and negative terminals, and of course our MIG terminal. If we wanna stick weld positive polarity, we wanna plug in here with our stinger, and then that's our ground. When we're running MIG is gonna always be on positive polarity, so your ground's always gonna be here on the negative. But depending on what stick rod you're using, you might run negative polarity. Now looking at this machine, it's about 25 inches long and 18 inches tall. I'm no expert, I ain't got a scale or nothing, but shoot, that's probably 35 pounds. You load a 4-pound spool or 8-pound spool in there, you know, you've got a pretty portable welding machine. A lot of people don't understand that you don't need a big welding truck and a big welding machine to be a mobile welder. This machine here will still operate on any clean power generator that at least pumps out 10,000 watts. You know, you can plug right up to one of those in the back of a Toyota Tacoma and you can get around town just fine. So, you know, keep in mind that this is a portable welding machine. All right, let's give her the first start here. Ooh, Cyclone 212. Dang. You can definitely see what's going on here. So many buttons to play with. I guess I could read the manual. Who reads the manual, you know? All right, so reading the manual definitely helps. You should definitely give it a read before you power this thing on. It'll help you better understand everything. And before we get in on all the settings on this cool machine, I want to talk about duty cycle and things like that. This is one of Everlast's new IGBT inverter technologies. We're working with a 230 amp MIG and stick welding machine. It works all MIG processes that you typically find in the industry, as well as running constant current stick. So what roughly that means is for a 10-minute long span, it can be running at that 210 amps for about 3.5 minutes or so, constant. And that's at the highest voltage and the highest wire feed that it has. It can run a constant 3.5 minutes to give it that 35% duty cycle. Now at 130 amps and 20.5 volts, it has 100% duty cycle. So that means that it can be running at that lower voltage for 10 minutes strong in that 100% duty cycle range. It has a 15% duty cycle at 230 amps. So again, it is a 230 amp machine, so it could go up even higher, but the duty cycle is going to go down to about 15%. The stick rating on this machine is fairly impressive as well. Again, when running a MIG, we're running a constant voltage, and we change and adjust our voltage as needed, whereas when we're welding constant current with stick, we're going to be adjusting our amperage. And at the stick rating, it's about 160 amps at 35% duty cycle. If you and I both know, that's a pretty impressive deal, especially when running, say, 7018s, 332nd rods. You're only going to be running about 90 amps anyway. So this thing can definitely push some stick rod fairly easily, as well as have a great quality MIG welding machine right here. So the first thing that we notice is, of course, right now, whatever it's set to, it actually tells you what polarity to run. You know, polarity is very important when picking and selecting our processes so that we have the proper weld that we need to make. MIG, preferably, on most standpoints, is going to run on positive polarity. So that means that my MIG gun obviously will be in this terminal here where it will screw on, and then my ground lead will be in the negative. And it's going to always remind me that every time I turn it on, depending on what setting I have across the top. All right, so now that we're working in our C25, which is again one of our most common gases we use for MIG welding, we can see a few different things on the screen. Now when we're looking at this screen in our manual mode, we have full control over our voltage. We can set our voltage anywhere from 26 all the way down to a much lower voltage of nothing you'd probably ever get down to be honest. So, you know, you are able to customize your voltage and your inches per minute on there. 18 volts, you know, I'm somewhere around 190 inches per minute, or even up to 200 depending on what I'm working with and how I'm feeling that morning. But we can also customize the timings on our spot and our stitch welds. You know, we can turn our spot welds on, and we can set our seconds on there. Same as our stitch welds, we can set a timer for our stitch welds as well. Cool function to the Cyclone 212 is the 2T 4T trigger system. While in 2T mode, this allows the MIG gun to have manual control with the trigger by simply holding and squeezing, and the wire will come out until you just let go. Now when you switch it over into 4T, you'll be able to make much longer welds without having your hand cramp up, because you'll be able to hit the trigger one time and it will continuously feed the wire out the gun until you decide to hit the trigger again. Now right now it's not doing that because it's not arcing out on anything. If I was to be making a weld, it would run that wire continuously, which is a great safety function for the machine. So in case you lay your MIG gun down, it's not going to sit there and run that wire while you're unaware of it rolling. This is a cool function, making sure that it doesn't arc out when you don't need it to, but also it has the capabilities of making longer welds with ease. Of course, we've got our wire jog function, which is a great function for any machine to have. It allows the machine to feed wire without any ground or connection so that this wire, as it's coming through the gun and coming out the other end, isn't going to be hot or electrically charged. Also, it doesn't use any wasted gas, so that you're able to get the wire all the way through the line without using any gas or without any danger of causing any kind of arc strike or arc mark on anything that you're working with. Over here on the left side, we have our pre-flow, which it'll shoot a puff of gas out. As soon as we hit the trigger, before it runs wire, it'll run some gas for us, as well as our post-flow, letting some gas flow over that weld there at the end to help it cool off. The next feature we'll talk about is the inductance. So as we talk about inductance, now we can go all the way to 0% or all the way up to 100% inductance. Now what inductance does for us, as we were able to set the inductance on, say, 0%. So we turn this machine all the way down to 0. You're going to notice a lot crisper of a sound. What the inductance does is it kind of helps fine-tune the short arc transfer of this machine. So if we go down to the 0% inductance, again, you'll notice a lot crisper of a sound. It's going to kind of have a lot of a crunchy, crispy sound and kind of throw off a little bit more hard spatter, things along that nature. You might notice that you have a higher crown in the middle of the weld. Now as we go across the way and we go up to 100% inductance, you might notice a lot softer of a puddle, a lot more fluid, wetter puddle, as well as maybe throwing a little bit less buckshot here and there, so less spatter, if you will. Now Everlast recommends that you stay somewhere around 65 to 75% inductance just to make a good, perfect weld for, say, your typical fillet weld, lap joint, or even, say, a V-groove with a backing strap. Now for that particular application that I'm going to do today, which is going to be an open root V-groove butt weld, I'm going to leave it somewhere around 55 to 60% inductance. Kind of trying to have the little bit of best of both worlds, having a nice soft fluid puddle, but also a nice crisp puddle, so it's not going to want to fall into my open root or anything along that nature. It's going to want to stick to those walls well, as well as giving me a nice fluid puddle that's going to throw a little bit less buckshot and things along that nature. So inductance is a really great setting for this machine as far as to help fine-tune that short arc transfer. Now the burn back is a nice setting that we're able to control so that the wire actually burns back from our work to our contact tip. We can control the distance in that burn back, which is nice, so that it doesn't always get stuck to our contact tip, which is super annoying. So being able to control the burn back, the amount of burn back on our weld is super handy as far as customizing all these settings. Now again, this is our custom setup whenever we're in manual mode, and when we hit power set, all of this is already on auto. So you can still change the torch to your spool gun or to your 4-step trigger, but as far as the inductance, pre-flow, post-flow, burn back, that's already set for us. The machine is super smart. So really this power set mode is a super handy application. It just makes everything a lot easier on the welder so that you don't have to do any type of guessing. You know what type of wire, you know what thickness of metal. It gives you everything you need to know. So, but unless you're really picky and you like being a little bit more critical about what you're trying to work on, then you can also work on it in manual, which is also very nice. Power set is a really cool feature where we get to pretty much have the machine do all the work for us. The first thing we might want to do is select our wire diameter. Right here we'll select our wire diameter, and as I scroll I can either hit 0.45 size diameter, 0.35, 0.30, and 0.23. Now typically most of the stuff that I use in my shop, I'm running 0.35 size MIG wire, so that's what I'll set my machine to. And over here we can select our work thickness. So whatever our base metal thickness is, we can go about changing it. So we can go up in our thickness and it goes all the way up to 3/8 plate. Now what that does, as you can see across the board, between the wire size I picked and the base metal thickness I'm selecting, we'll just say 1/8 of an inch, it gives me a voltage and a wire feed speed in inches per minute what I need to be running. Now say if I think that that's pretty good, I can go ahead and send it and I can weld with those parameters, but it still gives me the option of customizing those settings if I'd like to. Now with the green square being right in the middle, that's showing exactly what the machine recommends. Now I can say I want a little bit more, and as I steer away from that voltage, it goes red. It wants to remind me that that's probably not what you want to do, but you can if you want, right? So we want to stay closer to the middle if at all possible. Same thing with our inches per minute. If we go out of that range, the machine lets us know that, hey, you know, if you're going to go ahead and do that, you can do it in the customized manual settings. But as far as the power set, the machine does all the work for you. Now again, while in power set mode, it locks you out of all the pre-flow, post-flow, inductance, the burn back, the spot, stitch, and things like that. The Cyclone 212 is a synergic welding machine. And in layman's terms, it's pretty smart. And what that means is if I go and adjust the voltage, or if I try to adjust that wire feed again while it's reminding me that I should stay somewhere in the ranges that it recommends, it locks me out of those other features because it's going to be able to move and change that itself, because it's a big old brain in here is telling it whenever I move something, it needs to also change, because you always want to have a good balance between all of your settings so that you make for a nice quality weld. A power set again is a really cool setting, and you can change that throughout all of these. You can hit power set, and again it sets everything, and as we go through all of these, again tells us what gas we need to be running and what polarity we need to be running. We can use power set on the aluminum, stainless steel, self-shielded flux core. We can run power sets. Power set on stick is going to look a little bit different because we no longer have wire sizes anymore. We have electrode sizes, so we can either be running 3/32 electrodes all the way up to 532 electrodes. Now if we go over here on this other side, we can select our rods and our work thickness. So again, with our work thickness going up from 5/16, once we get to about 5/16 with a 532 rod, it's telling us, you know, we can't go much higher than that. We're at our max amps. So if we went down on our wire size or electrode size, let's just say 3/32. That's my favorite, 7018 to run. You know, we can start working on our work thickness any which way we want, but 332s typically don't go above 90 amps. You know, we'll have to do multi-bead passes as far as work thickness, but those 332s run really good at 90 amps. Now you can select each type of stick rod down here at the bottom. This machine prefers to have 6011s, 6013s, 7014s, and 7018s. Now again, whenever you're in these power set modes, it's going to remind you what kind of polarity you ought to be running, depending on the stick rod you decide to choose. Got the machine ready to go. Now we just got to have some metal to weld on it. So all I got to do now is just prep some pipe. We got our 12-inch pipe here nice and prepped. Got the outside of the pipe, the inside, as well as the bevel face, nice and shiny, free of any mill scale, rust, oil, whatever. I use the Cyclone to bridge tack my pipe together so that when I'm doing my root pass, I don't have to worry about tying into these tacks. I'm going to end up cutting them out as I go. So I'm running about a 3/16, 5/32 gap, and I'm going to use that Cyclone to put the MIG root in. And I'm going to start by setting that root pass somewhere around 17 volts. Man, that sounds real nice. Real smooth. 17 and about 185 or so inches per minute on the wire feed. And that should be a good voltage and a good wire feed for us to get this MIG root in. There's our outside of our root. Very impressed with this little Cyclone, and we're gonna make it a pipe welder yet. Really nice root, clean tie-ins. Man, I've got no complaints. All right, now that the MIG welding is all finished, we're gonna switch this old dog over to stick. We're gonna make sure we're running our positive polarity with 7018s. We're gonna use our power set here. We're gonna select our electrode diameter. So we go down, select, we're running 332, and then we'll go over here and select our gauge, We got one, we're on 7024, so let's get that to 7018. There we go. Go up. Thickness. Well, really we're running a pretty half-inch thick or so. So 3/16 small, 100 amps for a 332 rod is pretty common. So we'll just keep it at that. We want to make sure that our stick stinger is plugged into the positive terminal. 7018 really only runs good on positive, DC positive, so that means our electrode needs to be plugged into our positive terminal with our ground in the negative. Again, we're going to be running some Blue Demon 7018 332s. 7018 is a low hydrogen electrode. That means it needs absolutely no moisture to run properly. So Blue Demon does an excellent job as far as packaging these electrodes to get them to you hydrogen free. Now I might go down a little bit on this amperage myself. Again, the power set is awesome because it gives you a good range of where you need to be. The machine wants what it power sets to. That's what we're gonna run for this 332 7018. All right, there's my stick right there. That's my 7018. There's still a little bit of slag in the edges and the corners, but the slag was kind of sticky. But it's in there. It flowed well. A little tricky with the hand wheel. That's our 7018 first fill. Man, this thing is running real nice, real smooth. Tie-ins are easy. Not too shabby. Not a whole lot left to do, guys. We just got to cap this here pipe. You know, 7018s, we want to keep a nice tight arc length. We're going to just do a nice puddle cap on this one bead cap. You know, just hanging a tight arc length, keeping things nice and slow. This machine's doing all the work for me, so if I can just maintain those three things, then this thing's going to come out nice and slick. Let's finish it up. Oh yeah, baby! That about wraps everything up, guys, for this demo. The Cyclone 212, man, I've got nothing but great things to say about it. We put in one of the smoothest MIG routes that I've ever personally done, but the stick rod's also lit up smoothly. Not only is this a great shop machine, but you hook it up to a nice generator and you'll be able to take this machine anywhere and do some serious work. Great machine, great product. You guys gotta go check out Everlast and that new Cyclone 212. Doctor's orders.